How's it going? I'm sorry, I was actually really sick this week. I haven't been sick in over 2 years, and I loved flexing that often. But this week got me. I rarely go out and I rarely drink, and I do it for special occasions and things. And there was a special occasion over the weekend, and I stayed out late, and didn't got horrible sleep, and it was a shock to my body. I don't know. And there's been something going around, so I caught it. Anyways, that's why my voice is just coming back, kind of. It was a rough week for sure. So yeah, I wasn't making any videos, barely traded. But it's all good, Sometimes you just need to rest up. So let's dive into it. I wanted to get this video off before market open for futures. It is May long, so tomorrow's a bank holiday. So likely, not at all necessary to trade tomorrow, and markets will only be open until I think noon Central Time. So I don't plan on trading tomorrow, but I'm looking at a couple possible entry points, if this kind of works out. Because what I view happening with this, kind of garbage Iran deal that again is getting peddled, and they're doing everything they can to make it seem like something's going to come together, just edging these markets along. But if you have friends that are Iranian, like I do, who keep in close contact with their family back home and are very on top of the state media and everything, that there's the negotiations are a complete deadlock. This is just the U.S.'s narrative, that they're close to a deal. Like, that's not a thing. So they just keep saying this, edging the market higher. But eventually, I think there's going to be boots on the ground. Something's going to happen. But because it's just, there's the terms of the deal are just, there's no way that they're going to be able to kind of come to agreement on some of the things. Iran won't back down on nuclear enrichment and wants reparations. So it would be something like some type of toll fee essentially for passing through the strait, which would be super embarrassing for the U.S. They're just at a total deadlock. This whole crap about Trump saying that there's a deal that's in the final stages is just total garbage in my opinion. The only way that this dissipates is if essentially he tucks his tail between his legs and leaves, and even then we're not in a great position. So this is what I think. This is what I'm picturing. So he's edging this deal along. A lot of the news about this, this deal coming to fruition happened today, a couple hours ago, leading into futures open. So that is not a coincidence that it was a ghost town yesterday, and then today all of a sudden there's a bunch of news coming out like that. I would assume that the market, based on sentiment over the weekend, is going to gap up. I don't know how much it's going to gap up. Who knows? There's no point in guessing, but it'll probably gap up. But the thing is, this is all kind of lining up with this roadmap of this manipulation move and these standard deviations. So if you know how I mark these out, they actually end up being pretty accurate. And as I see each level respond accurately, I get more and more confident. So I look for in this first, from anywhere from 2 to 3.5, I look for a large rejection. So it finally happened at 3.5. Some of these gave smaller rejections along the way, but 3.5 finally rejected. Kind of made sense as well. And then, we'll see what happens from there. So, and then usually the finisher move, what ends up being kind of the end of this leg, whether there's another leg produced or whether it reverses after that, is somewhere in between these 4 to 5. And I look at, I'm just watching the flow again on each level as they hit. So probably gap up, but there's a lot of time. The idea is that that they want the market to open near all-time highs on Tuesday for essentially what I believe will be, it could be Tuesday, could be Wednesday, I don't know, for what I think will be some type of black swan event or just escalation. It might not be a huge event. It might just be like, talk stalled again. And there's Iran says, there's no talks, whatever. And then so the market will just, after grinding all the way up, just like whatever it does here, after that, then it'll just finish down. It might not be a huge limit down. Again, when you experience these tops, like no one generally knows that they just saw the top. If you're watching the flow, you might have an idea because you'll see a lot of buying into the highs and you'll see a ton of absorption, and then you'll see sellers basically just take control. So at that point, you might have an idea. And then you would look for essentially, retest, reject, further down, get to the POC of last week, and then you'd look for battleground out there, and then you'd look for continuation down, and you'd look for just the week to finish negative, essentially, especially after kind of, well, I don't even need to do it on this. I guess I could just, you can just see it on here. So yeah, look at this. Looking at the delta and the contracts, again, we're tracking ES because that's where all the big boys are playing, ES, SPX. I know NQ is larger swings, but ES is where all the big players are at, and that's where the majority of the volume is at. So it dictates everything, essentially. Tech has its explosions, especially right now with AI and stuff. There's a lot of, really bullish sentiment around AI, but that's kind of dissipating. It's getting exhausted. So all eyes are back on ES and honestly YM as well, because everyone's going to be looking for rotation. They're going to try and argue that any, down move after this is just going to be rotation into energy and then small caps. So we'll have to look for that as well to see if that's actually true. I doubt it. So yeah, if you look at the delta, so a lot of buying over these last 4 weeks. But if you look at here, so yeah, this week I remember when that finished, everyone's like, oh, that was it, kind of thing. Don't think it's quite that, simple. Again, the high came over, I think, Asia, so that just doesn't really track. It'll come in New York whenever it is. And yeah, this 25K in the positive delta column, so 25,000 more contracts bought than sold throughout this week. However, price didn't even reach outside of previous week. It reached below, and then it used, I think, a lot of that buying to just remain inside of this week. So you can tell basically from that sellers were active here. They were absorbing. There's a lot of passive sellers here. They were not essentially at the start of the week. They tried to move lower, but all that did was activate buyers into here. So it'll just be time to see. Sellers, they were definitely active this week, and did they continue being active? So I'll look for that to essentially, as soon as we get into all-time highs, I'll look for sellers to really take control again. I'm not going to assume it's going to happen. That could always, things change. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's what I'll be looking for. So a cheeky play that I might look for, again, because if this is how I'll watch to see everything line up as futures opens. But if that's how it starts to roll, where basically the idea is for futures to open and just maybe gap up, and then here's a possible trajectory of what I think will actually happen. So I think likely based on sentiment over the weekend is we see a gap up. We might see actually get towards these highs. Maybe it goes higher, I don't know. And then it kind of rejects into tomorrow. I don't know, something like that. And then on Tuesday, when it reopens tomorrow night, into Tuesday, like Asia and London, then we see kind of, then we see it take like one of these levels. I don't know where it would be, kind of maybe around there, and then up and then reject. Or it could, same thing, gap up some way, actually cut deeper down to here, and then up and down. We'll see. The only way I would take any long, I don't want to chase a gap up is what I'm saying. There's too much time in between futures open today. So Sunday night, Sunday Asia session, there's too much time in between that and then when cash session actually starts on Tuesday morning. So you don't really want to chase any longs above here because there's anything up here is useless tomorrow during a bank holiday. I think it'll continue to grind higher, but there won't be any large moves. So if you're chasing, you'll be chasing into a lot of chop, which is really hard to hold through, especially, if you're not a seasoned trader and you're over leveraged or oversizing, that chop will just destroy you. So you really only want to, in my mind, be long to all-time highs from two areas. And you can line these up with when these hit for NQ if you really want to trade NQ. I'll be focused on ES, but for the weekly profile here, we have a couple low volume nodes that I'm interested in because of where they lined up. So you have, where is it? Come on, there we go. So you have right here 7456. So that is very interesting to me because 7456 lines up with, so we'll just put it right there so you can see. So it's about there. Yeah, 7456. So that 7456 is right above Monday highs and this value area high for this kind of dip right here of last week. So that's essentially a level I'd really want to hold into all-time highs. Like I don't care about us hitting all-time highs and then breaching it afterwards. It's really just if I'm going to take a long into all-time highs, the best long scenario would actually be to be long from down there. And I know we'll probably see a gap up, so you'll probably be thinking, how would that happen? I don't know. But if it does, like that's a long that I would take. And I would take it long, up until I'd be looking for sellers to get really active in between 7,568 and then, 7,593, somewhere in this area right here. That's where I'll be looking. So anywhere there, and then I'll be looking for a rejection. So yeah, from there, or let me just delete this so it doesn't get confused. Oh, actually, shoot. Yeah, I'll keep that. Or where is it? This low volume node right here. This is quite a low volume node, and then it's protected by kind of a daily POC there. 7478. So 7478, I think is right there. Yeah. So 7478. Okay, so that is actually tucked in. So see this range right here? I'm just going to re-pull it. Oops. So this range that I've drawn out with a fib. So yeah, previous week high down to last week's lows. So this lines up, this is right here, the yellow lines, if you haven't seen any videos prior, 0.69, 0.618, yeah, it's golden pocket right there. So we would have, initially we looked for rejection from there. That was actually a really clean rejection, and then it held the 0.5 and then moved higher. So that was your kind of bullish scenario that this golden pocket was not going to reject lower. And once it gets through there, generally, if we're going to move higher, which I'm looking for, to breach these highs and then ultimately get to this TR pocket, which I love that it lines up with this 5 standard deviation, that'll be like for sure. I want to see sellers active up there. Yeah, for us to continue up there, I actually generally want the golden pocket to hold now as support. So I want it to be flipped. So I would like that too. I would definitely take that as well. If I saw buyers get active right there, because we're just breaching into this golden pocket, we're hitting that, like we said, low volume node right there that we marked out with this line. And then, yeah, so same thing. I'll take a long into all-time highs from there. And I don't care. I'll take it low size. So I'm not, constantly checking and worried about the chop and stuff. I'll just take it low size and I'll just let it grind into tomorrow. And then I'll just have my stops probably below here, below 7,450. I wouldn't want to see it go below that. Again, these are all scenarios assuming that something happens that actually gets it to come down and fill the gap. You never know with the news cycle right now. There's just, again, tons of talk about the steel getting edged, and you could easily see something like, gap up, and then, it starts to, as it crawls into these highs, then you see Iran come out and saying like, what talks kind of thing, or, just anything like that. And then all of a sudden the market would just like come down to here, and then you'd look for it to hold one of these levels. And then maybe it would be like Trump saying like, well, we are considering like pulling out maybe, or something where, something again to just finally get it up in there, up until these highs, and then reject. And yeah, I'm just looking for rejection just because, as I've stated in other videos, we're at the top of this SPX range extension that I mapped out forever ago, and on a very macro macro time scale. So that would be putting us basically right up here. So we'd be looking, or I guess a little higher. So right up here. So I'd be looking for, bullish scenario, of course, is you look for this, how it peaked above and then rejected in. Then you look for it to continue out of there and just make another leg. And then this is, was just like a road bump kind of thing for a more bullish scenario. But yeah, obviously the bearish scenario is that this is where it's going to reject from. And this is the end of the party essentially, and you're going to see what will look like a breakout of this zone, and then it'll just go, you know, maybe again not all in one day. It'll be like down and then retest and then down again, and like that, and then the next week will be like that, kind of thing. So we'll see. Something like that is what I'll look for like a bear scenario. Again, unless there's some huge breakthrough with AI, like I know everyone's very bullish with it, and the productivity that is coming with it, it still results in job losses by like a ton. Anthropic basically just came out and said they plan on automating out like over 50% of white collar entry jobs, I think by 2030. I can't remember, but it's like over the next 10 years, maybe it's that. But yeah, either way, that's not good unless you start replacing those jobs with something else. And their case is, remember the .com era, and we thought that was just going to wipe everything out, and or the printing press, and that their jobs there's always been new jobs created by big advances in technology. But the thing is, we're so advanced at this stage that we essentially this technology that is being invented should have the predictive ability to be able to tell us at least what jobs will be created in the future based on this technology being created. That's the great thing about AI, is it has that power now to like that predictive thinking, and it still can't really do that. It's still like it's too many hypotheticals. It doesn't really make sense. So we'll see. But yeah, and then obviously the Strait being closed for as long as it has is just like an insane spike in inflation is on its way and already happening. And yeah, a lot of world economies are really feeling the effects. So it's just a ticking time bomb in my imagination. Yields are also through the roof as well. There is some talk that Warsh and Bessinct are planning on forming some type of deregulation with the big banks so that they are able to get rid of the restrictions on the amount of treasuries they can buy. So that would really put a lot of downward pressure on bond yields. So that would be good. Who knows if that's actually going to pan out that way. Again, you still have a lot of foreign countries dumping US bonds. So yeah, we'll see. I just don't get it. And then Bitcoin, that's just like, that's another risk gauge. It was looking good for a sec there, barreling towards 80K and then rejected, but we'll see. We'll see if it holds here. Who knows? Could go higher as well. So yeah, nothing's for sure, but just good to have a plan for, every scenario. And if this happens, then that. If that happens, then this. And yeah, that's basically where I'm at. So not much else to go on. Let me just actually quickly here. What are we at? 18 minutes? Okay, 20 minutes is probably good. I was sick last week, so I didn't trade. So I didn't actually look at really the flow. It was kind of a nothing burger to me because it's Friday heading into a long weekend. I'm like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Like, there was a low volume day anyways. A lot of selling into close. And then, yeah, trap sellers because we're probably going to gap up and then come back down. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, from what I can tell, a lot of buying at the highs, selling push lower. So yeah, that was like I was showing on the weekly delta. That was, your sellers basically absorbing and being very active last week. So who knows? They might be getting in early. They might know something. We'll see. Gonna be a big week next weekend, especially the week after that. So anyways, trade safe. Like I said, cash open not until Tuesday. So if you're new to trading futures, trading a bank holiday is pretty risky. Sometimes you can actually get a pretty nice move because of the lack of volume, but other times, especially near all-time highs, that's like the caveat is near all-time highs. If we're in all-time highs during, or even close to it during the bank holiday, then it's real sketch, a lot of chop, because no one really wants to make any definitive moves that close to all-time highs when there's, stocks aren't even being traded. So anyways, I'll stop yapping. Take care. Enjoy your week.